I'd like to welcome everyone accessing this session on dyscalculia today. My name's Amanda Michaelani and I'm the new Senior Advisor for Learning Difficulties here at CIRU. I hope this session provides an understanding around what dyscalculia is, how students might present, and hopefully some practical ideas and resources that can support you and your abilities to support your students presenting with significant difficulties in maths. I'm certainly no expert on dyscalculia, and I don't make out to be, but again, I hope I can provide you with an understanding and some strategies that might be useful within the classroom setting. Strategies provided are based on the research of others, and what I can guarantee is that they will not harm any of your students, but may assist with many. As with any learning difficulty or disability, what will work for one student may not necessarily work for another. It is about quality, differentiated teaching and knowing your students well, and working within the 3 waves of intervention. Under the broader definition of disability, the DDA includes students with significant learning difficulties, such as dyslexia or dyscalculia, as having a disability. However, they don't meet the disability criteria under what was previously known as the Disability Support Program. These students are now catered for under the SITE's IESP site funding, previously known as the SITE's Learning Difficulties Grant. What all of this means is that as educators, we are legally required to make or provide reasonable adjustments for these students based on their individual or functional need to ensure that they can access the curriculum on the same basis as their peers. This might mean adjusting pedagogy, providing extra time in tests or exams, allowing the use of calculators, assistive technologies, visuals, concrete materials, or individual or small group work. Students with learning difficulties. Learning difficulties is a general term which refers to learners who experience difficulties with their learning. Research suggests that between 10 to 16% of learners exhibit difficulties in academic and or developmental skills. What does this mean for us as teachers? It means that about 1 in 4 students present with a learning difficulty or disability. Specific learning difficulties or disabilities include dyslexia, dysgraphia and dyscalculia. Perhaps the most common are dyslexia, which is a language-based learning disability of neurological origin. It affects the skills involved in accurate and fluent word reading and spelling, and it is frequently associated with difficulties in phonological processing. Dysgraphia is a specific learning disorder with an impairment in written expression. It is also neurological in origin. It is characterised by difficulties with accurate and or fluent written expression and by poor spelling and handwriting skills. And then, of course, there's dyscalculia. Fun fact, the prefix dys is Greek and calculia Latin. Calculare being to count, calculare also relates to calculus, which means a pebble or a counter on an abacus. Thus, calculia, often said as calcula. After informing some of my previous colleagues I was doing a presentation on dyscalculia, they wanted to argue about the pronunciation, but the psychologist backed me up. And in my recent research, I came across a tip to remind them. The article said that you will always remember it as dyscalculia if you rhyme it with peculiar. On the slide, you can see the definition provided by Ausbeld. Dyscalculia is a significant difficulty in learning or comprehending mathematics, in particular numeracy. Students with dyscalculia will have trouble understanding numbers, learning how to manipulate numbers, learning mathematical facts, and a number of other associated difficulties. The severity of their impairment relating to mathematics will obviously vary depending on the individual. Many students who struggle with maths may present with some or many of the characteristics of dyscalculia. However, it is the lack of progress after intensive remedial intervention that sets students with dyscalculia apart from those that just struggle. Dyscalculia, as defined by the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, the 5th edition. This is utilised by our department psychologists. What we know about dyscalculia is that it's present from birth. It's a lifelong condition that's completely unrelated to IQ. Like dyslexia, dyscalculia is widely recognised as having a genetic component. It affects the parietal lobes of the brain, and it affects both males and females equally. Understanding its cause is that, like dyslexia and dysgraphia, it is neurological and generally hereditary, meaning it runs in families. It affects the parietal lobe section of the brain. This is the orange part at the top of the brain that you can see on the top right-hand side. People with dyscalculia will often have severe anxiety around numeracy, meaning they'll find it extremely stressful to do numeracy tasks in front of others or under time constrictions. Mental calculations may be truly traumatic and might take much longer than generally expected from their same age peers. Dyscalculia is a specific learning difficulty with numbers that affect around 5% of the population. This actual figure varies because researchers use different criteria to define severe mathematical difficulties, and much less research has been carried out in this area. Whilst dyslexia is a term more widely understood and often better catered for in schools, dyscalculia is still very much its poor cousin. Many teachers are unfamiliar with the term and have had little, if any, training in how to support children with dyscalculia. At a basic sense, students with dyscalculia will lack number sense. They'll be unable to grasp number concepts, will have problems learning number facts, will have trouble performing simple calculations, and will be unable to apply mathematical knowledge to solve problems. Not sure if you know, but there are actually 3 types of people in the world. There are those that can count and those who can't. Sorry, that was my attempt at adding some humour to the presentation. Things you might notice in the classroom. Students may have poor self-esteem and will often avoid playing games with dice as they can't count the dots or match the dots with a number. They might also be more likely to avoid other games that have a difficult scoring system, such as Rummikub or Uno. As one would expect, students with dyscalculia in your classroom will have to work much harder than their peers, and this can impact other aspects of their schooling. Thus, anything we can do to reduce the burden or cognitive overload will be of assistance. Other characteristics that might be observed include things like difficulty completing work independently, using their fingers to count, or drawing visuals to support their counting, recognising number symbols, learning and recalling basic facts, in particular times tables. They're likely to struggle to recognise patterns in numbers and understanding the structure of numbers' place value, and groupings being prime examples. Remembering number facts will be no easy feat for your dyscalculic student, nor will counting backwards or forwards. Take a minute to recite "Mary had a little lamb" backwards. How easy or hard was this task for you to complete? How did it make you feel? Imagine if you had to do it on the spot in a room full of colleagues. They'll have trouble predicting. They often won't know which of 2 digits is larger. They will lack effective counting strategies and fluency with the identification of numbers, and will be more often than not present with limitations in working memory. Every student that you come across will present with a different profile, but students will typically have difficulty with learning to count. They can often be observed using immature strategies to calculate, such as counting by ones, and again, perhaps you'll notice them using their fingers. Imagine what it might be like for one who sees every number simply as a string of ones. Look at the visual at the top of the screen. If your student can only see that 8 is 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, etc., and 9 as 1 plus 1 plus 1, etc., then even the relatively small numbers and quantities lose their individuality. A string of single units hides any identifying characteristics. This means such things as if the number is odd or even, or how it can be built on or out of smaller components. Neither quantity can be established except by counting out individually, and either number can be easily mistaken for another. Students with dyscalculia often don't have a clear understanding of quantity. They find it very hard to visualise the numerical magnitude of a number. For example, when they see the symbol 5, They can't visualise, they don't have a clear picture in their head of what 5 is, what it looks like in their mind. Whereas if we provide it as a visual, they develop a much clearer understanding of what the symbol 5 means and the number of quantity it actually involves. Look at both the dot comparison and the number comparison. Compare the two. Which one do you find easier? Which one do you think a student with dyscalculia might relate to or understand more? Your dyscalculic student will likely have difficulty telling the time, reading and interpreting graphs and charts, grasping abstract concepts like multi-step algorithms, fractions and algebra, and applying mathematical concepts to their everyday life, such as budgeting and time management skills. Visual scaffolds will support in all of these areas. As mentioned, timetables charts, number grids, the use of timers and visual organisers. They'll have difficulty identifying which of two numbers is the larger in quantity. They lack number sense, which means not only will they find it hard to comprehend our number system, but they'll also struggle to navigate their way through it and understand how numbers actually relate to each other. They'll have difficulty working mentally with the 4 operations and have little understanding of the effect of these operations. Again, these will need to be explicitly taught utilising concrete materials, visuals and the use of mnemonics, cards that they can refer to, and always trying to relate to real-life situations so that the skill can be generalised in a number of circumstances and settings. It's not only useful, but imperative to explicitly teach the language of mathematics and display the vocabulary involved. For example, addition, combine, in total, altogether, they all mean the same as add. I love this cartoon. I taught Stripe how to whistle. No, I didn't hear him whistling. I said I taught him. I didn't say he learnt it. Dyscalculia will persist despite good teaching and intervention. Our role as educators is to teach mechanisms and coping strategies to enable our students to function at the best of their ability within our community. Just because we taught it once doesn't mean that the student has mastered the skill and can apply it across a range of situations and environments. What psychological skills are actually involved in mathematics? Attention, fluid reasoning, long-term recall, processing speed, visual spatial processing and working memory. Research suggests that there is often an overlap with other learning difficulties such as ADHD, dyslexia and definitely deficits in working memory. Problems with working memory can often cause a number of difficulties within the classroom. All aspects of memory are involved within mathematics. For example, short-term memory allows for the immediate recall of facts, such as number bonds to 10 or times tables. Understanding and recalling mathematical vocabulary or terminology, and that's why it's so important to explicitly teach the mathematical language and have it displayed for students to constantly refer back to. Understanding word problems, making sense of a word problem often requires retention of information in short-term memory. Performing mental calculations correctly. Mental arithmetic places a huge demand on the working memory. Remembering and carrying out procedures as well as rules and formulas. Provide these to students who are struggling on cards or tables that students can stick in their books and constantly refer back to. Keeping track of steps in problem solving. Other ways to support with memory: use visual organisers, flowcharts, use concrete materials such as pneumocons, as you can see on the slide. Encourage overlearning, utilising a little and often approach. As I said, use memory cards. Provide the student with a set of cards to remind them of facts and formulas. Go through them daily. Children with poor working memory also often present as inattentive and highly distractible, which is due to issues with their working memory and it being overloaded. Then they become forgetful, especially when they are mentally or cognitively challenged. Mental arithmetic places a high demand, as I said, on working memory. In addition, mental arithmetic is heavily dependent upon working memory, as it requires not only the storage of numerical information during problem solving, but also the retrieval and application of number rules. Basic classroom strategies. Know your students well. Build on prior knowledge. Utilise a multisensory approach, utilising a variety of visual aids, such as diagrams or charts, and concrete materials. Use a vast variety, such as Numicons, Cuisenaire rods, 10 frames, MAB blocks, number lines, Unifex cubes, etc. Concrete materials teach patterns. Provide practice through games that target specific areas. Use the Big Six of maths. Use evidence-based intervention programs. Teach for meaning. Pre-teach and review relevant material. Use as many visuals as possible. Use pictures and diagrams, sets of cards with key facts and words. Practice daily, as previously mentioned. Incorporate rhymes and favourite tunes. Concentrate on the journey, not the destination. Students learn from their mistakes, and so do we. Consolidate through regular repetition. Overlearning aids long-term memory. Teach mnemonics. Create word walls and banks to support with vocab. Smartphones are a great and age-appropriate resource for older students. Help students to develop and recognise their own strategies. Group concrete materials to help teach place value. In addition to the above, use different coloured counters. Practice subitizing and estimating counting backwards. Teach coping strategies. Utilise computer programs and apps wherever possible. Ronit Bird is clear that the most important things that teachers can do is to acknowledge that depending on counting in ones can be problematic and damaging for students. To support with this, children need to learn to see numbers as being built, not out of ones, but out of chunks, which she refers to as small components. She strongly believes that teaching and learning must begin at the concrete stage, with hands-on practical activities reinforced by carefully targeted games. Dice patterns made out of counters are great for component work, focusing on the numbers 1 to 10, and Cuisenaire rods for numbers 1 to 100. Seeing number as groups or parts is crucial for number sense, and using concrete materials and active participation so that students don't just recognise or match the patterns, but develop a much deeper level of understanding. If they are actively engaged in making specific quantities, then adding, moving, arranging, manipulating and reconfiguring the physical quantities. This provides a way of exploring how numbers can be built up, split back into smaller components. Likewise, the Cuisenaire rods extend the range of numbers to 100 and beyond. They can also be used to model a range of mathematical topics and at different levels, such as multiplication, division and algebra. Using Cuisenaire rods to model numbers and their relationships gets students to explore many different ways of building the number and allows them to discover the fundamental relationships that connect different numbers and topics. Ronit Bird is an expert in dyscalculia and has written lots of practical books that provide ideas for teachers and support students. We have a number of her books available to borrow here at CIRU. Advice from the expert. Ronit's 5 top tips to support students. These are available via her website. So start at the concrete stage, use concrete material, break everything down into small chunks. In fact, the smaller of steps, and ensure each step has been mastered. Teach reasoning strategies. As mentioned earlier, you can't rely on rote learning or memorising. Practice efficient strategies through fun games. Don't just rely on number fact knowledge. This is one of the Blackline Masters and games available from the Dyscalculia resource book by Ronit Bird. Teaching points covered are the components of 6. There are only 3 ways of building the number 6 from 2 components. The connection between addition, subtraction and missing add-end problems, mental addition of 2 numbers up to a total of 10. For the dot patterns between 6 and 10, she follows that convention of doubling the dice patterns for 4 and 5 to create the even numbers, 8 and 10, or combining adjacent numbers to create the odd number, 7 and 9. Arranging discrete items into easily recognisable patterns makes the numbers up to 10 distinctive and identifiable at a glance, as indicated on the slide. Use Think Aloud and model while performing simple calculations. This provides verbal cues. Explicitly teach, practice and reinforcement. Thoroughly teach the language of the subject and check for understanding. It's also important to practice complementary and reversible characteristics of addition and subtraction. Utilise empty boxes like this. 3 plus what equals 8. Something or what plus 5 equals 8. 10 take 2 equals 8, etc. Number charts and number lines, as mentioned, are important tools when providing adjustments for your dyscalculic students. They can be easily made, accessed through a range of books, downloadable online, or these ones are directly available from Speld. Simple number lines are one of the most useful aids for making visual the process of addition and subtraction. They're also useful in solving word problems and counting in 2s, 5s, 10s, etc., as it frees up cognitive space. These next few slides are hands-on resources which are also available through Speld and can be used in a variety of ways. For example, these are games utilising the dot cards. Fish instructions. Shuffle the cards, deal each person 9 cards. The remainder of the pack becomes fish. To make a pair, the player must ask for the number that will go with their number to make a 10. There are so many creative and fun ways to improve students' numeracy skills. A short list has been compiled at the end of the presentation, but for more support or practical resources, including assistive technology, please don't hesitate to contact the staff at CIRU, which is a free service to all department staff and students. Ten frames are great, they're easily accessible and they help students to understand how numbers work together. It's easier to see 5 add 4 equals 9 with equipment. They also support them to discover rules for themselves. Remember, we need to go over things many, many times to ensure it ends up in their long-term memory. This resource on dyscalculia is available from CIRU and provides further information, including a checklist for identification, interventions to support in particular areas, and an observation checklist. Please see the list of resources that I utilised in the preparation for this session. Resources are available at CIRU, some online websites and computer programs that you may find useful when supporting your students. I'd like to thank you all for your participation today and hope that you can take at least one strategy away with you. I look forward to any feedback and my contact details are as follows. Please contact me if I can be of further assistance.